Hi students, welcome to Unit 4, Lesson 3. This is operant conditioning. We're going to talk about the differences between punishment and reinforcement and also schedules of reinforcement. Here we'll talk about the processes of operant conditioning and describe some clinical and experimental examples of. Before we do that, let's talk about the differences between classical conditioning and operant conditioning. First off, classical conditioning is associative learning. We associate two events together and it usually creates an involuntary response. Ringing of a bell, salivation, thunder, I'm cringing, get sick from eating certain foods. Those are involuntary responses. Operant conditioning depends upon the behavior of the operator. So we learn to associate consequences or rewards from our behavior. The behavior is followed by a reward or a punishment. Now a reward can be something added or something taken away. That would be a positive addition or negative subtraction. We'll see the differences between those here. Now, punishment is meant to weaken a response by following it with unpleasant consequences. So if there is an athlete who gets a bad grade, they're removed from the team. They don't get to participate in the team anymore. That's an unpleasant consequence for the person who loves being a part of the team. We often use punishment along with reinforcement. So one thing that this kid can do is positively reinforce good grades by adding studying. Adding studying time will elicit the good grades. The positive reinforcer is studying, and the result are the better grades, which then equals getting back onto the team. So the two can work in combination with one another. Punishments are good and bad, but there are some problems that come along with punishments, and here are the bad. It doesn't erase a behavior, it just suppresses it. So the likelihood that person is going to repeat the behavior is high because they might be thinking that they're not going to get caught. It only works when guaranteed and immediate, so the bad behavior has to be followed with the punishment immediately. It may have bad side effects. We may come to resent the parent that delivers the punishment or that person that delivers the punishment. There is nothing to counteract a punishment. And it may be abusive, imitated as the only way to solve problems. So a child learns that if I don't get my way, I act out in anger, perhaps, if that's the way the parent has been acting or the caregiver. And it doesn't teach acceptable behavior. So you may recall times in your life where you got sent to the timeout chair or maybe got a little spanking. It didn't show you the proper way to behave. That's one of the benefits of using reinforcement when used properly. Now, just like reinforcement, there are positive punishment and negative punishment. Now, how can you say there's positive punishment? You have to keep in mind that the ultimate goal is to weaken a response. So positive means we're adding something to decrease a behavior. So administer a bad stimulus in order to get the bad behavior to stop. Spanking is an example. We add a speeding ticket to the speeder because that's unpleasant too. Negative is minus. We are withdrawing, taking away. Withdraw rewarding behavior to decrease an undesirable behavior. So take away a cell phone if you're not getting good grades. Take away a driver's license. Those seem to be two very effective ones with those that are your age. Here is a practical use of positive punishment. So this child here is 1 year old and it would vomit whenever it would eat. So what they started doing was adding positive punishment. They added every time the child would vomit, they would shock them. And just a few days later, this is what this child looked like 2 weeks later. The addition of the unpleasant stimuli led to better results. The child learned that I don't regurgitate, I don't throw up after I eat my food, I'm not going to get shocked. Maybe that child didn't learn that that was the end result, meaning they're only 1 year old, ultimately in better health. So that was a great use of positive punishment. All right, with reinforcement, we covered in the last lesson that it only works when it's immediate and follows a schedule. So here are some of the ways that your behavior and mine is influenced through reinforcement. We have partial or intermittent reinforcement, which means that we reinforce a response only part of the time. And this partial or intermittent reinforcement has these different schedules of reinforcement. So a fixed ratio is a set number. Ratio is a number. of responses and we get the desired reward. So you buy your 4th coffee and you get it free. That is a set number of coffees you got to buy before you get that free drink. Next, a variable ratio. Variable means it varies. Ratio, still a number. So unpredictable number of responses will equal a payout. Pigeons might sometimes be reinforced after 10 bar presses, sometimes after 50. We don't know. This guy, this bird pigeon, is playing a slot machine, and casinos take advantage of variable ratio schedules, knowing that we're going to keep trying if we think, oh, I'm going to get that winner is out there somewhere. Lottery tickets. I like to buy lottery tickets occasionally because of variable ratio. One of these days, I'm going to hit it big. A fixed interval. Now, fixed, it's set. Interval is time. An interval is 30 seconds of burpees. It reinforces the first response after a fixed period. People checking the mail. Pigeons peck at it more frequently when they know that they're going to get the reward. Fixed interval. It's a fixed amount of time. Another example is like a paycheck. And your social medias, a variable interval. So time varies. Reinforces the first response after a varied period of time. Instagram will take advantage of this because you'll check, you don't have any likes, you don't have anything, and then they'll flood you with notifications and say, oh, everybody's looking at your stuff, you better take notice. So that's why I had the picture of me taking selfies of myself at the beginning of this. These social media takes big time advantage of operant conditioning and are slave to the rewards. All right, really quick overview of operant conditioning, punishment, and schedules of reinforcement. When it comes to punishment, we want to weaken a behavior. Reinforcement strengthens a behavior. Positive is adding something, negative, taking it away.